Hey guys, we're back. We're here to talk about paper two. You guys have finished paper one. Congratulations.
Woohoo!
But now we are working on our second paper of this class, which is a refutation essay. Dr. Thayer, you want to tell them about what a refutation is?
Yeah. So remember, with paper one, you chose a TED talk and you looked at the effectiveness of the argument. And in essence, you talked about what the speaker was doing well, what made a good argument. For this one, you're going to be doing the exact opposite. So you are going to look and see what makes an argument weak or flawed or problematic. And instead of just looking in TED Talks, you get to select the text. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. So, what you are going to do is you are going to select an article or a news story, or it can be a TED talk or a video that is a flawed argument that has problems in it. So, like social media posts, those would be good too. But you are going to select an argumentative text that you find to be problematic, flawed, or one sided and provide a refutation to that article. So, when we say refutation, we're talking about an attempt to weaken or make less credible a claim with which you disagree. So you are going to find an article you disagree with, but just like paper one, you are not focused on the content. You are focused on how the speaker makes a weak argument.
Right. So it is not about disagreement. It's not why you disagree with the topic. It's not based on your opinion. It's why the argument itself is flawed,
Mhm.
based on the principles of good argumentation. So, for example, we talked about rhetorical appeals.
Yeah,
One of your critiques of your argument might be that they fail to use one of the rhetorical appeals or demonstrate one of them. And we'll also talk
absolutely.
about some other ways you can refute an article as well. Like Dr. Thayer said, this is the opposite, really, of what you did in the rhetorical analysis with the TED Talk. You were looking at the effectiveness of an argument before. Now you're looking at ineffectiveness of the
Mhm.
argument. You were looking at strengths of an argument. Now you're looking for flaws. So it's a positive versus negative. It's basically the inverse of that.
Absolutely.
Here's a claim that would not work because this one's focused on content. So, social media is bad for society because of privacy and safety concerns. The psychological and emotional challenges decrease productivity and net speed. What is this claim about, Dr. Thayer?
It's about social media. It's about
Mm,
the topic. And we do not want it to be about the topic. We want it to be about how the speaker makes a weak argument. A weak argument. So we do not want claims like that. We want something more like this. While Simmons, so we're bringing in the speaker, offers a compelling argument regarding the emotional content of student writing, his argument uses insufficient evidence and he commits several logical fallacies. So there's a claim where it is directed towards the ineffectiveness or the weakness of the speaker's argument.
right. The content is irrelevant.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, in order to do this week, we're going to be doing three assignments to prepare. First, we're going to learn about logical
Mhm.
fallacies. Then, we're going to have basically a repository of text that you can choose from for this essay, because sometimes students do struggle with finding a text
Mhm.
to refute. And then we're going to work on our outline. So, first up, we're going to talk about logical fallacies. This is going to be an assignment.
So, logical fallacies are arguments that involve faulty reasoning. So, on the surface, they seem plausible, but they're really inaccurate the more you think about it. And we see these all the time. Now, instead of us making this an hour-long video, what we have done is we have included this logical fallacies video in the to do page, that first page for this essay. So, what you need to do is review this logical fallacies video. It's going to go over the main logical fallacies, straw man, red herring, all of those. So definitely watch that. You will need it for the assignments as well as the essay.
There's also a nice visual chart that includes some of the ones that he talks about in the video and then some other ones. These are probably the ones that you're going to find most frequently
Yes.
in text. So here's another tool, and this is also in that start here overview page as well. And then what you guys are going to do, you're going to learn about the fallacies, and then you're going to apply them to this article. So you're going to read the text, and your goal is to find three logical fallacies. You'll talk about what the fallacies are. So you'll pull quotes from the article, you'll talk about what fallacies they represent, and then you'll talk about how the quote represents that fallacy.
Right. And this article, I mean, as you read it, you should feel a little offended by it. She makes some pretty terrible accusations. So you really want to, read it and see, okay, where are the flaws in her reasons? Not this is why I disagree with her.
Right. Okay. So that's one thing. So once we have the fallacies down, we're going to look for text. sometimes students struggle with finding a text for this because it's not about the content, it's about finding a text that's logically flawed. So one of the easier ways to do that is to find something you already disagree with, because you're kind of predispositioned to find flaws in that argument. So think about a person that you argue with that you might not like so much, not Dr. Thayer, of course. You're sort of already predispositioned to disagree with that person or that text. Students have, so if you have an article, like right now, there is a movement going on that we should all part our hair in the middle. And as you can see, Dr. Thayer and I adhere very strictly to a side part situation. I just don't have the bone structure for a middle part. Tried it, doesn't work. So I might look up an article about that topic. Now, I did look up an article about it, and when I read it, I realized there really wasn't enough to talk about. So then where could I go? Students have had a lot of luck with the CNN opinion sites. Opinion texts are often very riddled with logical fallacies, or Fox News opinion. Political debates are often include great examples of logical fallacies.
Absolutely.
But any text you want.
Yes. And honestly, students email me all the time asking, I don't know where to find a text, because it's not as easy as just going onto the TED.com website and pulling a talk you find interesting. So what I always say is start with just a Google search, putting in random things like, like something you completely disagree with. So I might say something like, I don't know, but something, oh, cats make the best pets. That's incorrect. But I might find an article that focuses on that. So I naturally disagree with it. Once I naturally disagree with it, it's going to be easier for me to find the flaws. So you don't want to find a really strong article or an argument. You want to find that garbage article, the one that like your aunt or grandma shares on Facebook that you're like, where did this come from, right? So you want those kind of things. Students in the past have had luck finding things off of like BuzzFeed, New York Post, what's another, like just any kind of like garbagey blog website that is really just, it's not about informing, it's just for clicks, you know what I mean? So you want to find a weak article. Do not find a strong article, because you're not helping yourself. You want something that's already weak and flawed so you can easily point out the flaws.
Exactly. Next thing you're gonna do, once you find a text you think works, you're gonna make sure it works.
Yes.
You need to be able to point out these things in your text. So like I said, with the hair part article, even though I completely disagree with it, there really wasn't enough to work with. I couldn't have written a whole essay about it. So you're looking for texts that are overly biased. That's why opinion pieces tend to work well for this.
Absolutely.
You're looking for ones with poor evidence, right?
Or lack of evidence.
Yeah. Or if it's insufficient, irrelevant evidence, or not representative, right? So if they're talking about young people and they bring in statistics about all Americans, well then, like, what are the age, right? Are they leaving that part out? You can, if it's not up to date, if you're talking about COVID and you have information from even 6 months ago,
right,
that is not up to date information, because
things have changed.
Things just change and keep changing. Is their claim invalid? So remember, in the beginning we looked at what makes an argument. So we talked about valid and invalid claims. So do they even have a valid claim to begin with? Does it contain logical fallacies? This will probably be most of what you will see in these flawed articles.
I have had students for this essay write each paragraph identifying a different logical fallacy in the argument. So if you find like 4 different logical fallacies or 3 different logical fallacies, you probably already have enough to write your essay. You don't just have to look at logical fallacies, but it is a really good starting point.
But you could.
Absolutely.
If they have a call to action, is it an impractical solution, right? Is the solution to everyone has to have a middle part is we all have to shave our head? That's not a practical solution.
I'm not doing that. Nobody needs that.
Really ugly.
I just have to get a wig.
And then the last thing would be to share our texts. And so this way, we'll do this via discussion board. Everyone in the class is going to find 2 texts that they think would work, and they're going to post it on the discussion board. That way you have a repository of like 50 texts that you could look at and choose from. So if you don't like yours, then you can go and see what your classmates have posted and perhaps use one of those instead.
Absolutely. And this is that 3rd assignment. Now, some students will say, well, second assignment, I'm sorry. So I saw step 3. So what students tend to worry about is, well, what if I have the same article that somebody else in the class does? That's okay, because you are going to be using it in a very different way. The logical fallacies you find will probably be very different from what somebody else finds. And honestly, the case of you having a similar article or the same article, it's very few. I mean, I really don't have that problem. So I wouldn't stress too much about that.
Yep.
Share 2 texts on that discussion board that you think are really weak and garbagey that you think you or somebody else in the class could use.
So that's the second assignment for this week. Now, once you have your text and you've learned about the fallacies, then we're going to start outlining this. So you'll complete the intro and the 3 reasoning sections of your outline. There are other sections, but if you look at the assignment description, it shows you which ones to complete. And there's also a student sample on there as well. So you can take a look at how a student's laid it out. But it's very similar to our previous outline of using point, illustrate, explain for those sections, except instead of the points being about the ways in which the speaker makes an effective argument using the rhetorical appeals, the points will be about how the speaker makes an ineffective argument using logical fallacies or some of the other things that we discussed.
Absolutely. So this outline should not be something new to you.
And those are the things that are due this week. So on Thursday, you have 2 assignments due: logical fallacies, where you'll watch that video, read the article, and find 3 logical fallacies. The discussion board where you'll post 2 articles, and then the outline where you'll have chosen your article and you'll be outlining the text that you've selected.
Absolutely. And that assignment 2, you are just posting the articles. You're not doing anything with it. You're just posting the articles. So just a little heads up on that.
Okay. Any questions? Feel free to contact us. We are just an email away.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Stay safe.